Hello and welcome, Brett here with clickmill.co. All right, so in this video, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We've been talking about asking the person we're talking about targeted questions to better understand who is the source of whatever it is they're saying, what's the medium or the platform they got it from, and whether or not that's reliable. What do the terms mean to them as they're saying them? Um, and what is the position that they're taking so we understand that. Now, in this case, they're going to be asking you questions, but in many cases, we're talking about asking questions in a formal and strategic manner to actually understand their position, not to confuse or confuzzle or conflate two things. We're actually looking for clarity. Now, in this scenario, they're coming at you with the question fire hydrant, you know, and they're not actually looking to understand. They're looking to confuse you and basically make you look dumb. They're looking to bring up so many problems so quickly that you couldn't possibly solve them all in a reasonable scenario. So they come to you and they're like, "Oh, you're a Christian? Oh, well, everybody knows Jesus is Jesus was a myth. Uh-huh. Oh, well, and also he didn't die on the cross. Everybody knows that. Oh, well, evolution disproves Christianity." And so you start in on one, and then before you can even get into that one, they're throwing another one. And before you can get into that one, they're over here and they're talking about, how Krishna in Hinduism or whatever, and they're just rapid firing questions or problems for you to solve faster than is reasonable to have a conversation. Because a lot of this stuff, I mean, as you can see, takes a long time to break down. So there are basically two approaches to this. One leads back into the Columbo tactic. Okay, so number one is to be somewhat upfront and say, listen, I'm happy to have a conversation if you're really genuinely asking these, but we have to separate these out. Which problem do you want to talk about? And just they can pick, and then okay, great, let's talk about that one. But we have to just call it on the front end and just say, no, this isn't even a fair conversation because nobody can answer these this quickly. This is not okay. Okay, so then the second thing and so that's one way to move back into the offensive, because you've said, which one do you want to do? And that is a question. And that is you recontrolling the conversation, even giving them the freedom to choose. So now the second one is to move back into a position of questioning. So when they choose one, or, you know, even if they're rapid firing questions, maybe you don't even ask them to choose one. You just say, well, what makes you think? Where did you hear? What, what article said? And so you just begin to question one of their assumptions. If they're on the defensive, justifying the questions they're asking, they can't ask you more questions. And so either way, you can kind of shut down this fire hydrant approach to making you just look silly and unprepared. So with that, I'll open this to the guys. Anything else you want to add to that when people are just rapid firing questions at you?
Um, I, I had to get up for a second, but I think
You're
it
good.
just uh I think it just puts you back in control of the situation and allows you to be able to center questions one at a time instead of trying to handle like 20 questions at a time. Like, hey, what about how do you know Jesus isn't real? The new test like someone will hit you with, well, we know that Jesus isn't real. We know that the New Testament was written, hundreds of years later. We know that evolution disproves God. So, why are you even a Christian? It's like, okay, let's break that down one at a time.
Yep.
Where did you hear that or you could say, is it okay if we break that down one at a time? So now you've been given permission to center into just one question and then say, okay,
Hmm.
well, let's handle your first question. You said Jesus isn't real. Where did you hear that? Boom. And then
You
they're
went
not going
back
to
to
say,
Columbo there. You didn't even answer the question. It's where did you hear that? So now
"Mhm,
they're defending their own question. Why would you think that's the case? I love that.
right,
That's great.
right. And then handle the other ones in the same manner.
Awesome. Thank you. Love it. Zach, you got anything? Okay. So in this video, and I'll maybe one thing else I'll add here and we'll close it. with that fire hydrant, sometimes it's a disingenuous approach where they're just trying to make you look silly because they're throwing out 50 questions. But sometimes it is genuine and they really have just heard a lot of things, but they don't actually know that those are separate things. They don't realize that evolution disproves Christianity and the Bible is historically false. They don't really realize the depth of answers that there are there and that those are totally separate things. Like it's just sort of buzz talk that they've heard, but it's not actually separated and delineated in their mind. So it's like, okay, well, actually, those are two separate things if they're being genuine. Let's talk about both of them, but let's start with this one. So, kind of understanding sometimes people are doing it to be disingenuous, but also sometimes people don't know the difference between the two, and you separate it for them, and that helps them in understanding. So that's really, really good. Talking about the fire hydrant question and questions and how to solve that. So in the next video, we are going to go over some questions that we have put together for you that we find are very helpful when using the Columbo tactic in any of the ways that we have gone over in this video. So we'll see you there. God bless.